All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Circle Club show. I am here with our Marvel expert, my man. He's been a little MIA, busy, making those bands. Corey of What's Next. What's up, bro?
What up, man? What up? I got blipped out of existence for a little bit there, but it just snapped me back. So it's nice to be back.
It is all good, bro. Life comes first, work comes first, more life as we say. As you guys can clearly see here, we are talking about Wakanda Forever, the predictions before this thing goes down. I believe we're seeing it this Thursday. And you're gonna start to see some predictions and non-spoilers and all that come out. But we're like, before, the regular people, we don't want to watch any of that stuff yet. So let's keep the predictions going and discuss some of these things. Corey and I were talking last week about this. We were like, man, I feel like Disney may be pulling a fast one on us here. They may be pulling a fast one, and I'm not sure. Do we think that Shuri is really the going to be the Black Panther? What's your initial thought on that, Corey?
So I've always felt like it was going to be somebody other than Shuri. It was just too obvious, and I think obviously we're playing devil's advocate here. A lot of the trailers pointing to Shuri, right? Yeah. And we want you. I want to just make note right at the start of this video that, as we've known, Disney has always misled us with their trailers, right? There's a lot of truth within them, but there is definitely a lot of deception. And I think for something that's as big as Black Panther and who takes up that mantle after the passing of Chadwick Boseman, it's been a little too loose in just kind of making it seem like it's just going to be Shuri. Shuri's the person, right? And I think when you look at these projects that have been getting rolled out, like Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, with Professor X coming in, Krasinski coming in, right?
Yeah.
You look at Toby, Andrew coming in, and I think some of these bigger surprises or wow moments, so to speak, have been spoiled before the movie even transpires, right? And I think something that is as exciting and has been as polarizing as the conversation of who is going to be the next Black Panther, to just hand it to everybody before the movie even comes seems a little too odd to me. And I think that's where our suspicion comes from, right? So we have our predictions on what we've been talking about. I've been talking a little. I'm going to kick it to you to kind of get into our initial prediction that we were talking about.
Sure, bro. So for me, I feel like, as we've said a billion times, we think Shuri would have been the right pick down the line if Chadwick was still alive and, they had some time and to mature it. It just feels super rushed. Now, my counter to that is, it's been 5 years. There's a blip. We don't know how much training she's done. When T'Challa originally got the Black Panther suit, he didn't really have any experience either, but he jumped right into it. He was ready. He had all his. It was almost like that. The flower that he ate gave. It was like he had all of the power, the strength, the abilities of his ancestors that came before him. And so, because of that, I think I'm not too concerned about Shuri's ability to fight. But when you hear Ryan Coogler talk about Namor is as strong as Thor and the Incredible Hulk, it makes me a little. I'm like, is she going to be able to handle this? I don't know. I think that I like your prediction here, or at least your thought or thesis that Feige would be fed up, because I think that was the big thing. Like with Spider-Man, we were all disappointed because we were like, if we didn't know that they were coming, that would have been the biggest plot twist of all time. And they were robbed of it because they were just messy. They had leaks. And then it was funny too, as you said, Corey, because it feels like up until phase 4, there was no leaks. There was no behind the scenes. Like, I'm seeing Loki shots for Loki season 2, the Ant-Man shots. And I'm like, Disney, clean it up a little bit, bro,
Yep, exactly.
And so if they put Shuri out there to sort of counter that and gave us someone else, I think everyone's mouth will go and drop, you know?
Mm, mm,
So, look, I think it's still a stretch. But I can see it happening. If they're gonna go a 180 switch, I think that it would be M'Baku. M'Baku would be the person
mm,
because maybe Shuri is more that international person, more with the UN. She works with them, but M'Baku is the person who's at home, the king, and remains in Wakanda, because I think that's a big thing
mhm,
too. Is Black Panther has been running all over the place, but not protecting his people. And what we've
mm.
seen in Phase 4 with Daredevil and a lot of these things, they aren't running around all over the world to save people's problems. They're focusing on their community's problems. So those are my thoughts.
No, I love that, right? Like that was like the first person I always said I realistically would have wanted it as the next Black Panther, right? And M'Baku, he was always there kind of for T'Challa in those moments. Him representing just the Jabari in the initial situations to not just hand the reins over to T'Challa and make him have to earn it, right? There's just a lot of moments that I think M'Baku has built up to gain that type of respect and garner that type of a role, right? And it to transition smoothly, right? And I think, like we always said, Shuri is not somebody that I would say I never wanted in the Black Panther role, but I think there needed to be some of that ultimate growth. Now, can you push her towards that growth in a short amount of time? Now, that's possible, and this is where kind of I think our conversation comes about in our wild theory that might transpire specifically for this movie, given the fact we're going off the hypothetical it's not Shuri, right?
Yes.
So it all begins with a good old friend, and a lot of mirroring we're going to see to the original Black Panther, which I think you want to follow. You want to eliminate variables with Chadwick being gone, right? So you got to take a lot of the elements from the first one that worked for you and try to build off that, right? And I think one of those big elements that worked really well, as we all know, is Mr. Michael B. Jordan and Killmonger.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And
fan favorite,
right? A lot of people really loved him as a villain, right? So when you think about where we left off, truthfully, with Black Panther 1, T'Challa did not want to allow him to die, right? He made that own decision to pull that knife out of his chest, but we've seen within that movie itself, with the U.S. agent, I forget his name, but with those beads and with their technology, they're able to heal them, right? So it's not hard to say, Tyrone, that Mr. Killmonger may have been saved by his cousin T'Challa, and we just didn't see it.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too that you mentioned that, because I think like a lot of times we don't talk about how they don't really kill in the MCU very often, you know. Obviously it does happen, but that's not the go-to that they're like sort of trying to go after. So I think it's super possible that he would be around. Now, the thing that I would push back to you or ask you, as you know, the person theorizing this, is, so and what if we saw that Killmonger was still a bad guy even when he became Black Panther? So how do they sort of navigate that? Like, would he end up becoming a good guy, or would he be bad, or would they do sort of a 180 flip there?
Totally. So this gets into the actual theory, right? So we've kind of established at this point, like, we're not just handing it to Shuri, right? Something has to happen with Chadwick here, and I think to explain that is this issue, right? That Chadwick probably leads to for Wakanda, right? The big thing that Chadwick does specifically for Wakanda at the end of this movie is open up its borders and really expose Wakanda for what they really are to the world, right? And I think you can play off of that, because something that Killmonger also playing off of was the power of Wakanda, and that was the big negative for him, and why he shouldn't have been the leader or the Black Panther over T'Challa, right? And I think T'Challa tries to grow, and you could use this as a method to expose T'Challa and be the reasoning for why he dies, right? He opens up Wakanda to really the world, and something leads to him dying because of it, right? And a lot of the people within Wakanda, which kind of parallels situations that happen within reality, which we know Disney loves touching on, right? And you can look
Yes.
at Wakandans really being in a situation where they want to focus more on themselves and protecting themselves and using their power as their strength when the rest of the world kind of came at them when they were vulnerable, right? And you've seen within the trailer the Queen saying like, "Hey, I've lost a lot, right? And like you guys are trying to pick at me like I'm not aware of it, right?" And
yes.
I think that was a great tease within this to show that like with the fall of T'Challa, it leaves Wakanda vulnerable. And I think somebody who expressed that strength, although it was in a bad light and in trying to do it in a bad manner, was Killmonger, right? So you could see where they could kind of go off that element where they lose their Black Panther, and who do they resort to? Almost like the evil option, because they're left in a state of panic, right? And especially with like the Namor situation coming in, you could see all of this leading really to Shuri having to have this character build up and really grow up really quickly with the loss of her brother, the situation that's probably going on with Wakanda and the conflicts going on that really helps her arise, that at the end of this movie might really become our Black Panther, but the journey to there is less handed and more so earned, in a way that would make it really interesting, that really allows Killmonger to be the villain at the end, and Namor, more importantly, to progress forward as a sort of pseudo ally, and make it all stick and land, and really entertaining, and thought through, and ties back to the first one a lot. And I think that's the important thing that you want to do with this movie too, is not just discredit things that you did in the first one, but build off of it, right, and expand.
Yes, and I love this idea, because as we've talked about, Disney loves to reflect reality and what's going on. But I think it's unlikely that you have, the first Spanish Latino character go against the first female Black, or the second Black superhero, right? Like, it creates this sort of weird racial tension that is something I think Disney would sort of push away from. And I think one thing that we've discussed as well is we believe Namor is going to be this anti-hero, like, and so he needs a sort of way to get there, right? So I sort of think if Killmonger isn't dead and he's still around, maybe we sort of see what was in What If play out a little bit, right? Like in Doctor Strange 2, the Multiverse of Madness, we sort of got little hints from What If put into the show, but it wasn't like a 1-for-1 match. So it wouldn't be a crazy idea that Namor ends up siding with them, right? So I don't hate that idea. I like it a lot. If you guys are watching right now, make sure you subscribe and check out Corey over at What's Next. He's the Marvel man. He makes Marvel content all the time. Go check his stuff out. So I think bringing Killmonger back would certainly be an interesting choice. I personally think if we're going to bring Michael B. Jordan back, because he's so A-list, he's such a big name, and him and Coogler have that relationship from Creed, I think maybe down the line it's a variant thing, or you have him join the bad guys. I do think at some point we're going to get this super villain team of all the bad guys going against the Avengers, and that's when you bring back Captain America, the OG, and Iron Man, and all these, like, and it just becomes this huge multiversal war. Now, I might be hyping up.
To your point, though, with the variants, you can always do that. You can always bring in a bad version.
Yes. So I don't know if I'm hyping up the multiverse war to be as big as that. It may just be who we have right now, their variants. But I think, listen, if you're going to go multiverse war, go with a punch, go with a bang. Now, let me ask you another question. How do you think T'Challa dies in this movie? Do you think that it's going to be something sort of tragic, sad? Do you think it's going to be a villain? Because that sort of leads into my prediction.
I think you have to off him with a villain, right? I think it's the most I think logical way to get it done quickly and have it just be just just
Quick.
don't just don't let it linger, right? Like obviously
Yeah.
like it can't. I don't like the taste of saying it's a sickness because it's too related to his reality of life.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
the timing doesn't really work, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
the more important thing that you can do out of it, not to say you want to make a benefit out of somebody's death, right? But you
Yes.
can
Yes.
ascend a villain to very high levels instantaneously and provide them with a lot of credibility
Mm-hmm.
by killing a fan favorite like Black Panther. And I think
I
this is
agree.
what leads to conversations that we and you, more importantly, started with your man Dr. Doom,
So
because he's such a bad man. That would be a great way to make it known that, hey, this man means business and anybody's on the table.
yeah, and so that, I think you're right. I think to introduce a villain to kill T'Challa, you instantly hate them, you instantly don't like them, right? It's like the reason Thanos is like, I think we forget the reason why Thanos is so who he is because Iron Man had to do what he had to do, but he was offing a lot of people. We had to get Black Widow sacrifice, Gamora, and I think you have to, if the superheroes always survive, there's no stakes.
Totally.
So why are we getting invested, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that Chadwick has passed, so T'Challa has to pass. And so don't give me in the first act he's sick or it's linked. Like if we get that, like I'm not gonna love that, and I will criticize that unless it's done in its way where you're like, dang, they really are pulling at the heart right now, and then we're just done. But I feel like the way this movie opens up, truth be told, is a voiceover from Shuri or Ramona, and just saying like, it's been 3 years, we've lost our king, boom, and then like, that's when the
funeral scene,
the funeral starts, and then like you get the
right
music. Yeah, just jump right into. We don't even have to see how he died, unless they from that point they try to figure out how he died, right? And then that's when it sort of gets revealed that it was Dr. Doom. I think Dr. Doom introducing him this way, where Dr. Doom kills T'Challa.
It's almost like a murder mystery. Yeah, it's a murder mystery.
Yeah, it's a mystery at that point. We're trying to figure, and who doesn't love a good mystery, And I think to have him pin it on Namor, and we think instantly because we've seen all the press, we've seen all the media where we think it's Namor.
And it would be
believable
right.
Am I saying that right? By the way,
Namor. Yeah, Namor.
Okay.
To touch on that, that would be a great theory because, like, when you think about it, like, who could you really pin it on that you would believe that would take out Namor, right? So now you get this almost like this deity that nobody even really knew about, and they're like, yeah, he's known as the Feather Serpent God. It's like, like this guy could have absolutely killed T'Challa, right? Like, I'm gonna let you continue, but I love where you're going with this.
Yeah, no, I mean, you go ahead and run with the baton. But I just think Dr. Doom is someone we've been itching for so long, and then that it opens up all these questions because this is the final movie of Phase 4, right? So if we get Dr. Doom, then we start asking the question: how did Dr. Doom even get here? Isn't Dr. Doom from the future? How, like, why did he target Wakanda and T'Challa? Why does anyone? Vibranium, right? I just think it makes so much sense to introduce this character right here at this moment, because if we don't get the answer how he got there, why he's there, it opens up later.
And if you really think about, like, we always talk about the comparison and the mirroring to the other phases, especially in the Infinity Saga, right? And you look at the end of Phase 1, they end it with the Avengers, right? They're not ending it with an Avengers movie, but Black Panther 2 is that level of hype type of movie, right?
Yeah.
And what do they do after Avengers? They tease the big bad, right? They tease Thanos, right? And I think we've seen Kang, right? And we know Kang's role within Secret Wars in the multiverse, but another individual who plays hand in hand with that exact role is our man Doctor Doom, right? And I think coming out at the end of Phase 4, like you said, to leave us with some questions, leave us with some excitement.
Yeah,
you might get Doctor Doom, and I think you might not really see enough of him until you really get closer towards the end of Phase 5 when you get Fantastic Four, and then that's when it's all go ahead with Doctor Doom come Phase 6.
And I think the thing is, Corey, is, you know, and I'll put it on the screen so we can look at the next phases and just discuss that a little bit too. But I think when you think about, you don't have to necessarily the Doctor Doom that's in Wakanda Forever doesn't have to be the same one from Fantastic Four. It doesn't have to be the same one throughout the MCU, because now that you have all these variants running crazy and there's this multiverse war, I think it makes sense that there's going to be some confusion for us, but also for the characters, because they're going to be like, I don't know who is who, what is what. But that's who I think is showing up in this movie. It's important, guys. It's very important that I say this. We're theorizing. We're having fun here. Do not go into the movie and go, wow, they didn't do Doctor Doom. Wow, they didn't do Killmonger. Because it's just fun. You have a prediction. You're having guesses. Yeah, like if they trust what they're gonna do in this movie, and trust that they know what is right for the future, because they have Phase 5, 6 ready. They're working on it now. One other character that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about is Ironheart. How do you feel about Ironheart's role in this movie? What do you think? What are you expecting to see from her?
Yeah, so I'm looking at Ironheart as this Rhodey type in a sense, right? I don't think you're gonna elevate her to this Robert Downey Jr. level, right? I don't think. Yeah. I think you're
not
gonna
yet, at least. Yeah,
not yet. I think you're gonna show a lot of shades of that, but to start, she's gonna represent more of that almost like quasi has the skills of Tony Stark, but fits the Rhodey mold more so when it comes to who she is and what she's doing, so to speak, right? Because I think you're going to get that Shuri aspect where she's fighting, and she's going to need that sidekick. She's going to need some of that punch because she doesn't have enough of it. And I think that's where Riri, being kind of the younger black kind of mentee, so to speak, can come in there with kind of that different variable that she comes with the tool belt and the whole suit and all that stuff. You know, I think that's her role. She's not going to be the Iron Man leading the charge, not yet. Like we said, at least.
Yeah, and you know, we're this is a Boston company here. You know, we ride for our guys in the bean, 100%. And she is going to she's going to MIT, and we're gonna get some Boston scene. So that's gonna be super hype. But I think don't undersell how intelligent she is going into this movie. I think going into this, we'll see this young girl is a prodigy, and if Tony Stark was still around, I think there's no question he would be working with her the same way he worked with Peter. I think that she would do an internship for him. I think you're going to expect her to be sassy, just how he was, witty, one-liners. You know, one thing Corey and I were talking about is she's not going to be this sort of stereotypical character that you think, because she's going to be very diverse and like, I think being from Boston as well, you get exposed to a lot of different cultures and people, and them being from Wakanda, and that's not to say that, you know, people from Wakanda or Africa don't get the same, but it's different when you're in America. You're a Black American versus an African American, right? And I think you'll see some funny moments between where there's some cultural shock back and forth. Those are going to be some good comedic moments.
Totally.
And that was always the best too with Iron Man, because he was super wealthy, so he sort of had the same sort of thing with the people who were middle class, poor, whatever. He was like billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, like those sort of moments that were just classic. And I think, to your point, it's too early for us to see her take on that leadership role. But similar to Kamala Khan in Miss Marvel, I think once her TV series comes out, people are gonna fall in love with this character. If you could buy stock for a character, man, I would think Ironheart would be one. And then, bro, you were talking about it, the suit. When we see that suit finally go, it's gonna be hard not to be like, dang, man, I miss Tony.
So
you know?
hard. They just like I was saying to you, they just need that nice touch of music that fits her vibe, but plays off of like the same type of stuff that they were doing with Iron Man. So give those that contrast, show those similarities, but give her own tone and feel with it, right? I think, like, obviously, like we said, you're not gonna go throw AC/DC in there. Because that's not who she is, right? But I think having something pop off, like I said, I would love some Dreams and Nightmares. That would get me fired up. But I don't know what you want to start with. But whatever it is, I think that's what they got to do. They got to show that contrast, but find her own lane at the same time.
Yeah, and we know, dude, that Coogler, like, with the first Black Panther, that was his whole thing, is the music, right? Like, when you remember the soundtrack with Kendrick, you were like, whoa. I think we're gonna get some Latin music in this, definitely some more R&B, some rap. Rihanna's gonna be on this. I'm not, just to throw you on the spot here, is there a song or an artist that you would like to hear on this track that we don't know about? I know you just said Dreams and Nightmares, so I don't want to.
Yeah, honestly, I would really love to see a repeat. I'm gonna go with my man, The Weeknd, here, because The Weeknd had, I think, a song or two. I know he had at least one of the songs when they were going to the casino situation.
Yeah, I think it was "Pray for Me."
It's something like that. But it was a great.
For me.
Yes,
that was it.
That was a great song. I love The Weeknd. He had his spotlight in the first one. I want to see him again in this one, and I haven't heard anything, so maybe we'll get him.
I think it's gonna be unlikely, but to get some Bad Bunny.
Oh, Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny always turns up the
Bunny,
place, man. If we get some Bad Bunny, when we get over to what? And by the way, what are they calling? They're not calling it Atlantis. Do we know yet? Have they announced
Telecatan. I forget what it's called,
or something like that. But
it's based on Aztec. Yeah, Aztec culture.
Yeah, whenever we get down there, I'm sure the music's gonna be really hype as well. But yeah, music has always been a big part of this. So that is something I'm certainly looking forward to, and with her series.
Telecon, I think it is.
Telecon, thank you. And this is why this guy's the Marvel expert. He's always looking up and got our back. One more topic I wanted to discuss, and then I'll pass it along to you or anyone in the comments, is what do you think is Ramonda's future here? Like, you see her take on this You Win stage, and she's like, my whole family is gone. You already alluded to it a little bit, where she's like, you know what, you guys are sort of playing on our kindness. We opened up our doors to you, and now you're taking advantage of us. So I think we may see her put that mama bear foot down. Boom, I've had enough. But one sort of prediction I have here that I'm not sure anyone else is saying, and not sure if it's something I really want to happen. They may kill her. She may die in this. That seems like an obvious thing to keep saying. People will die, but man, I mean, just think about the resilience that the Shuri character would have at that point. She's lost her father. She's lost her brother. She's lost her mother. Even if you don't want Shuri to be the Black Panther, at that point, you feel so bad for this character. You gotta root for her. Yeah.
It's a tough spot. I think it can easily be done, right? Like, she's not, no offense, but like she has no real purpose in a sense. Right? I think she has a lot more purpose driving Shuri's motivation, or more so Shuri's motives and actions and things like that, and pushing her more towards the person she needs to be.
Yes.
having less of that support system, right? And I think
Yeah.
her mom almost being that last person before she dies, instilling some of those things in her and lessons, right? Like after T'Challa dies, she's
Like
kind of
Uncle
like,
Ben, right?
yeah, like she's kind of like Uncle Ben, right? Or in our world, or in this MCU world, it's Aunt May, right? Who's delivering
Yeah,
the
right,
message.
right.
But she delivers some of those pillar messages, and then when she does eventually die, maybe by Namor, um, it I think sinks in for Shuri, right? And you kind of have that cinematic overplay of her voice and yada 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 that obviously
Yeah.
you could probably picture. I think it helps that moment where she's low, and then
Yep.
gets back up. Right? It's like, show them who you are, right? Like that's her mother there, kind of in the
Yes.
back of her head, helping her climb up.
Yes. Yeah, and you need that person in the back of your head motivating you, pushing you,
Mm,
telling you, anything's
mm-hmm,
possible, go ahead.
mm-hmm,
And one of those people may be, in my opinion, M'Baku. I think
mm,
M'Baku is going to be. I don't want to say he was underutilized in the first movie, but I think he's going to be
mm-hmm,
utilized a lot more.
mm-hmm.
How do you think M'Baku will be used in Wakanda Forever?
I think M'Baku is extremely important, right? I think M'Baku provides that foundation, like I talked about. Like he has a lot of that, always kind of being that support system for T'Challa in those tough moments that he had, right? To fight
Yep.
back against Killmonger, to be there to help fight against the aliens when they were invading, right? Like M'Baku has always been there, right? And always
Yes.
represented. And I think in these times when Wakanda is under distress, I think M'Baku's voice carries a lot of weight, and I think he provides a lot of reassurance in that, hey, here's where we need to really think from, right? And I think
Yeah.
that can't be overlooked. And I think and we're going to take the trailer as an example where he's even saying like, they know him as the serpent god, right? Like he's almost establishing to them like, you guys don't understand what we're dealing with right now, right? And he's that voice
Mhm.
of reason so much. And I think that's what he's always been, like the scoffing at tradition with Shuri, the not fighting your war, but ends up stepping in when he knows it's the right thing to do. Like he's kind of
Mhm.
always, and that's what's led to us even talking about why he should have been the Black Panther, right? Because he kind of
Exactly.
always is
Exactly.
making the right decisions at the end of the day.
It doesn't always seem like it's the right decision up front, but yeah, I mean, I think because again, I think T'Challa and Shuri and some of these other characters, they have that Western and outside
Mm-hmm.
influence because they've dealt with the Avengers and other.
Yeah.
Where M'Baku is looking at it from the perspective of, I have to protect my people. I have to
Mm-hmm.
be a leader for my people and patriot, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why I don't know if they'll do it, but it almost feels that they should split duties where he's the king,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
Shuri be the Black Panther role. She's almost the ambassador of Wakanda,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that would work a little bit
I think
better.
it would definitely balance it a lot more, like a little bit more checks and balances.
Hmm.
They've been left vulnerable twice now, basically, like with T'Challa's father getting killed, now T'Challa getting killed. Like they gotta learn their lesson a little bit, right? Like Queen Elizabeth died, but they got the prime ministers there, right, to hold it down.
Right,
So you gotta
exactly.
balance it out a little bit.
Exactly. All right, my Marvel expert man. What do you think, Namor? Like, how do you think he will compare in the MCU as a villain? Like, do you think we're gonna be
Mm.
like leave this and go, this dude is top of the top, he's filthy, he's bad, or do you think we're gonna be like, he was great, he was good, but not
Hmm.
quite that level? And then like going forward, do you think he's going to be a character that is more used like, hey, we need your help, or he's going to be more doing his own thing, more Wolverine style?
Mm. I think Namor is gonna kind of be the first real mercenary in a sense, right? And not in the sense of a
Mm,
traditional mercenary where like he's legit just for hire and like you can hit him up and he'll just come do it. Like I think he's like more like that to the Avengers in the groups like that in those dire moments, he's a mercenary,
yep.
right? Like I think he will come along, he will help out, but he is a wild card, right? I think he's always going to be off in
Yeah.
his own little world, doing his own thing, and I think at times he's going to have that reflection that like he doesn't care, and I think we'll like more so project that like almost like anti-hero kind of role, because he's not really trying to get involved. He's trying to stick to his own lane, doesn't really care about that stuff. And I think in those moments where things become really big, like we talk about with the big time Avengers things, it's almost like he's forced to have to get involved because it indirectly is going to affect
him and
his lane, so to speak. Yes. Exactly.
Right.
And I think that's how you can position him as an anti-hero, really, without having him do a lot of villainous stuff, right? It's more selfishness, it seems like, right? And he kind of positions to use DC as an example, more of a Black Adam like role that they're projecting with The Rock, right? Where he is gonna help his people, but like he's gonna do it his way, and you better just stay out the way. And eventually there'll be something that comes along that obviously Superman and Black Adam will probably work together, right? After the little fight that they do. But I think that is the best representation of what Namor, I think, truly will be like. And it makes sense given his power level, right? Like that, it's a good direct comparison as almost like the Black Adam version of the MCU right now.
Yes, and that's a great comparison as well. I think overall what we'll see with Namor is that he is going to be used in the sense that almost like a Rhodey's used, or Hawkeye or someone where you can call him up and say, hey, look, we need your help, and I know you don't really want to do this, you got your own priorities or whatever, but this is going to be important to for this greater cause. Before we head out, Corey, I always got to ask you, because you're a Marvel man, maybe we don't talk too much about Phase 4. I'll pull Phase 4 up for a second here. But overall, Phase 4, now that we're about to stick the landing, how do you feel? How do you feel about Phase 4, generally speaking? And how do you think Phase 4 is built up enough for us to end with Wakanda Forever?
So I think Phase 4, there's two elements, right? There's the movies and the TV shows, right? I think you gotta treat them differently, because the TV shows are really in its first rendition, right? They never really did it before, right? So you're almost looking at the TV shows as a Phase 1 version of itself, right? And I think the movies, although this saga, this multiverse saga, is in a Phase 1 per se, they rarely are in Phase 4 movies. You've established how you make movies pretty consistently at this point, right? So I want to judge them separately. So when it comes to the films, I thought there was a lot of elements there that were really cool, right? I think Black Widow's to just do quick hitters. Black Widow's a real toss away. I don't even really want to judge it, because it's really a victory lap for Natalie Portman. Right, and they put elements, and I think they put elements within it to justify, I think, how it ties to the future, right? And I think those elements were good elements with Yelena, with the Red Guardian, right? But overall, the movie itself, right? Like I wasn't.
So maybe what you could do here for us is kind of go down real quick and be like, what's the important thing to take away from that movie?
Totally. So for Black Widow,
because you're right, Yelena, that was huge.
Yelena's the huge piece right there. So that's the takeaway, right? Like, it's a victory lap movie. You get Yelena and the Red Guardian, obviously, but in the context of all these movies, it's okay. Shang-Chi, to me, was a really, really great movie. It introduced your first Asian character, but more importantly, it introduced, I think, this concept that's going to be very important moving forward with not only just the dimensions and different dimensions that are involved within our Earth that you're not seeing, but also the gear, right? The 10 rings. I think that's a trend that's going to continue, and we'll talk about quickly with Miss Marvel. Eternals, a lot of cool elements, foundation of how the MCU universe really exists. That's the key thing, but I think fell a little bit short on itself, right? I think after that one, you're going to Spider-Man, and Spider-Man, the biggest knock is just the leaks, right? Like, it took away a lot of the excitement because we kind of already knew who was involved, right? But a great spectacle movie for sure.
It was a great spectacle movie. It was a great spectacle movie, but you also, that was like our first introduction of like, hey, we can have multiverse variants and other versions.
Totally, right? And I think it sets up, obviously, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness to help you understand how some of that works a little bit. I think Multiverse of Madness, to me, was by far the best movie that has been released in Phase 4. I thought everything from start to finish was creative, interesting, fresh, right? I think did Doctor Strange justice. Like I said, this is my favorite out of all the movies so far. After I push past this one, Love and Thunder is a big miss, right? Like, the Thor franchise had for a long time felt like it was a miss. They bounced it back in a huge way, like legit 0 to 100 with Ragnarok, and then to come back with this after really establishing the Thor character multiple times throughout multiple movies with Infinity War, Endgame, and you really loving his character and where he's been built up. You're looking at Thor to really rise up even more as one of the OG Avengers, and you make a circus show out of him in a sense.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It was very strange for sure.
And I think that's a bad hit for these movies in here. Now, transitioning over to the TV shows, honestly, I think overall did a good job, right? Being their first run through, right? Like, WandaVision, to me at first, I wasn't really a big fan of, and kind of rewatching it, and as the season progressed, I thought they did a good job setting the tone of what they're trying to really do within these TV shows with this show. And I think ultimately it was really important to the overall story, and that's why I really like this in hindsight, because it actually ties tremendously to the larger story at hand, and that's why we're all in the MCU in the first place, right? So as we go forward, next one after WandaVision was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think this was one that fell short on its wow moments, but was specifically the great takeaway is I think they did a great job establishing why the Falcon is now Captain America and why he should be Captain America and take that mantle up. And I think
passing of the torches, like that is going to be that, and that's sort of the overall theme of Phase 4 is that torches are being passed. Superheroes are, people are looking up to superheroes and getting a chance to become them.
And get comfortable with it because it's going to happen, like you said, right? So I think this one, it wasn't a bad one. It wasn't great, but I thought it was a good one, right? Loki, by far my favorite of all the TV shows. Right? I think Loki, to my point with some of the stuff I said with WandaVision, like this one, he plays even larger into what's going on with the MCU right now, right? I think WandaVision more so because specifically Wanda herself, right? And her power abilities and what that means to the universe, right? But Loki really establishes what this whole saga is going to be about, right? And I think what they do with Tom Hiddleston in this and how they expand his role as Loki, like everything from start to finish was just impeccable here with the TVA, the tease with Kang at the end. Like, this is chef's kiss. I think maybe the best project that's been released in Phase 4, even better than Doctor Strange, in my opinion, right? So, transitioning after that, What If? The first real touch into the current day MCU animated world. I think they did a good job, honestly. Like, starting off by exploring stories that we already know and staying pretty tight with it and not making a lot of changes. And then by the end, it's really blown out of proportion and it's vastly different, right? And it's fun and entertaining. And I think that's the greatest avenue for What If, right? And this is a great start to their animated content because they're going to be coming out with more with Spider-Man and things like that. Great representation on what they're trying to do in that world, I think, with this one. Next up,
that world also too allows them to play and give us sort of like different examples of like the different properties and magic and things that it's budget wise it's a little bit more difficult to like execute on film and television to be more experimental than that animation.
Yeah, and I think expectations are lower too, which allows you to get really excited when good stuff's happening there, which they did, right?
Yep.
Now with Hawkeye, I thought I wasn't really expecting a lot out of this. I thought like for what it was, they wrung a lot of the juice out of the lemon, so to speak, right? Like or the orange.
Yeah.
They did a fantastic job with what the story really was. I think where this one falls flat a little bit is the ending, so to speak, right? Like
I think this needed maybe 2 or 3 more episodes.
Yeah, I think you need a little bit more of the Kingpin aspect if you were going to do that there. But I think overall for what was given to us, I think it's lifted up because of Jeremy Renner, because of Haley Steinfeld, and because of of the introduction of Kingpin. There's a lot of cool elements here. So this
and I think and one other like little thing too is like Haley Steinfeld's character, Kate Bishop, we literally get to see like a flashback of someone who was influenced by the past actions of the Avengers, and that changed the trajectory of who she became as a woman. And I think that sort of puts us right in the driver's seat as this is who we would be in this universe.
Exactly.
And so you see a lot of that throughout Phase 4 as well, in particular with Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, and She-Hulk. And so I really like that introduction there as well.
Totally. Moon Knight. This one is not a bad show at all. This one's a disappointment to me though, because I think overall a lot of the stuff that they had here was fantastic, right? A lot of the elements, a lot of what they were trying to do was so interesting, so cool. They needed more time with this one, right? They needed to let, I think, things be shown more, expand upon things more, give more that time to marinate and juice that really gets us into it. And I think they could have dove a little bit deeper in, and specifically to the whole Mark, Steven, Jake now, right? Like, I if they come out with a season 2, I might zip my lips real quick, because then it changes things, right? Like if you're gonna expand and make this a multi-season property, then it may change my opinion. It works that way. If you are doing this as just a quick series, which I think it was the initial positioning of how a lot of these shows are truly going to be, right? I think you missed the head of the nail a little bit with this one. But I'm very excited. That caveat. I'm very excited for this character moving forward, though. Regardless, right? I think this is the knock on the show is I wanted to see more of this character, and I don't think you gave me enough. And it's not more so a deterrent from the character itself. It's more so a knock on just this specific season that they created and how it was done.
Yeah, and I think that to get the mental health character, that was really cool. To see that the After Earth or afterlife, there's multiple different afterlives. Like we got a little bit of that. But I agree. I think that there was just a little bit left on the meat, a little left meat left on the bone there, and it was a bit of a disappointment. But overall, it was a solid show, I'd say.
Yeah. Now, Miss Marvel, my girl, Miss Marvel. This is a fantastic show. I don't even need to talk too much more about it. Like there's some elements that come from other properties. I think Shang-Chi is the one specifically that I see a lot of relation here with the dimensions, the bands. You look at Hawkeye with the Kate Bishop situation, looking up to a superhero and their motives there. This is a fun. This is probably the funnest project, I think, that got released in Phase 4, truthfully.
And before this came out, I think a lot of people weren't even we had very low expectations. Captain Marvel isn't exactly everyone's favorite. Now I think that you have this character that's super likable. We get that she's a mutant. And then you put that next to Captain Marvel. I think it's going to make Brie Larson's character 1,000 times more likable, just by association.
Totally.
And you know, I think about Black Panther, the original. Shuri next to Black Panther kind of had that same effect because she was a fun character. She was lighthearted, sort of like that little sister kind of nagging you. And I think we're going to see some similarities there. And I remember when we watched Ms. Marvel, you were like, I don't know if Brie Larson's going to show up. Like, she's kind of a big name. I don't know if they got... Then she showed up at the end.
They pulled it off.
And so they just... I mean, this to me is a perfect example. If you're going to do a one-season show, this is it for me.
Yes.
Because it makes you super interested in the character, and you're like... But it was enough where you're like, now I just want to see her with the big dogs, you know?
Totally. Like, this is the best. This is an example of what, not like exactly how the formula, like the ingredients in the formula are, but they needed to take this formula and put it with Moon Knight, and then take the ingredients that they had within Moon Knight and inject it into that formula. Right?
Absolutely, that's a great
that would have been the way to do it. And now finally. Attorney at Law, She-Hulk, Jennifer Walters.
Can I say something real quick?
Go right ahead.
Now, I know everyone has sort of said negative things about this show. I think if this show was maybe pushed back a few months, or was sort of in between, maybe, or after Hawkeye or Moon Knight right before, it would have been fine. And because we're still in the pandemic, we're sort of still just chillaxing, and we just want content, right? But this felt like the positioning of putting this before Black Panther was a bit odd. I don't know if you felt that at all.
I feel like I really haven't thought about this, but I think it's a good call, because I think where this one may have gone a little bit more love, it's a tough timing, right? Like, think about what it's coming off of, right? It's coming off of Thor: Love and Thunder, right? A lot of hate too. So now you're getting She-Hulk, which is really not intended to be a super serious project. I think what would have been a nice landing spot, and I would like you. I can probably look it up real quick. What was after this? Shang-Chi. I felt like this could have been after Shang-Chi. And I'm curious what TV show kind of comes right after that time frame, because if it goes, I think, into Hawkeye right after that, which maybe is the case. Like, let's see these dates here.
Shang-Chi is September 3rd.
And then the TV show.
And then let's go to WandaVision. September 3rd, we got...
you got Hawkeye that comes in November.
Yeah.
So you're looking at Shang-Chi, She-Hulk, which would play really well hand in hand because of the Abomination aspect and Wong aspect, right?
Yes.
So now you're like making a more smooth transition. Like, hey, we're moving out of Shang-Chi, but here's some elements from Shang-Chi that you just watched that gets you a little excited. Like, oh, this, and I think that would answer a lot of those questions. Like, where are we going in Phase 4? Like, all the haters that are like, we're not tying it together. Like, it's hard to say that when you had a project with Abomination and Wong in, and the very next project on TV, Abomination and Wong are in, right? And then I think right after that, you're going into another kind of funner project with Hawkeye and Kate Bishop. I think you're kind of in that middle zone where, like, guys, like, we kind of started off Phase 1, giving you the elements you needed to know. Now we're kind of getting into the fun area, and then we're going to get serious at the end, right? And I think, let me interject real quick, is I think, remember after WandaVision and Eternals and all, people were just like, how does this relate to the larger MCU? Because nothing was connecting, right? So if they would have given us that one little connection of like, hey, this is a continued thing after Shang-Chi. It's a tip of the hat, like, guys, it's still connected. Don't worry. Yeah, don't worry. Yeah. Here's a little example of the fact that it's still connected, right? And I think even with the way She-Hulk ends, with like the whole jumping into the Disney Plus screen, going to Kevin, right? Like, you can justify that with all the projects that's already been released, right? Like, Loki's been released. Yada yada's been like those foundational serious projects that started Phase 4 have been
Daredevil
released.
and then
like
going into Hawkeye.
Is it? Oh my God! See, I didn't even think about that aspect, right? Like then you bring in Kingpin and Hawkeye, and now you're like, whoa, get me hyped for Echo now because Kingpin
that one little shift
are there. Yeah, that one little shift in schedule. I think we need to get Coogler and Feige to watch this clip because if they've been watching this whole live, we got ideas for how to write Black Panther. We got ideas on scheduling. We got it all thought out. I don't know if I got to talk to in-person Kevin or I got to talk to the simulation Kevin and She-Hulk, but I mean, come on, we got this shit lock and loaded.
We do. I mean, and that's why you guys got to make sure you subscribe and check our stuff out, man, because we don't play here, man. And go ahead and search our original Black Panther. This is before the leak and everything, months ahead. We were talking about Dr. Doom. So if Dr. Doom shows up on Thursday, November 10th, you're going to see me and Corey do the Meek Mill run live on Instagram. Oh my God. Like, we're going to go ham. Because
I'm gonna hit the Captain Jack Sparrow tiptoeing on the marble flows.
Exactly. But all right, that's all we got for you guys today. Thank you if you're still sticking around to watch. Make sure you guys go ahead and check out Corey's channel and his TikTok and subscribe. That'll be in the link in the description. Man, Corey, I can't believe it. Only 48 hours until the Black Panther 2 drops and we see this thing, man. Unbelievable.
Dude, if only we could have the remote from Click right now, man.
Exactly. Only if. But all right, we'll see you guys in the next video. Stay safe, be careful, and remember, just be you. Peace.
How you feeling over there, my friends?